Hello, everyone. My name's Sean, and you're listening to Incredible Discourse. Today is the episode 4, and we're picking up where we left off. Onamuji has recently slain all of his brothers and taken control of the main islands of Earth, and he's going to go about doing some of that creating that we keep hearing all about. So that's what we're going to be picking up today on Incredible Discourse. Incredible Discourse. Alright, everyone. So today's episode, we're going to be going through Onamuji. He's back on Earth. He's taking care of things. But this section of the Kojiki has an unusual amount of poems and songs that are going on. So I figured we'd take the first part and just talk a little bit about just like a basic introduction to the kind of poetry and songs that existed and that are referenced to in the Kojiki. So the earliest poetry that's in the Japanese islands is obviously it's written in classic Chinese, and there's a couple different ways that it's referenced. Technically, it's called waka poetry, which is wa for Japan or the island of wa, and ka meaning like to sing, so it's like Japan poetry or wa singing. But there's this also collaboration of tradition of poems that are written around this time and earlier that come together in a collection called the Manyoshu, and this Manyoshu is also it also becomes a general description for not only the type of language that's being used and being written, but also for the type of poetry sometimes called Manyoshu. And this is so that's what we're talking about in the beginning. There's a bunch of different types of waka poetry. Waka poetry can be long, short, and there's a lot of experimentation going on with it during this period that you see a lot of poems appearing in the Kojiki. In the Kojiki, there seems to be about 112 phonetically written songs, and in the section coming up, there's quite a bit. And they use these songs or poems to kind of communicate with each other, right? Where one person will write part of the poem, and then the second verse or stanza will come in as a response to that first part in kind of like a very formalized back and forth communication. And so this will be the episode of songs. We're probably going to do this as a longer version, and then I might see if I can cut out some of the songs and do like a shorter version just to have all the fun meat and potatoes. But I think the actual songs are interesting, especially as they were translated in the 1920s. It gives it a very old-timey English feel to it, and I think that's interesting because if we translate it into modern English, it really loses that kind of like that archaic feel. So we're going to stick with the old translation that we got for it. So when we left off, Onamuji had killed his brothers. He took the forward princess, brought down to Earth. They built a beautiful palace. Everything's going well. And so we're picking up. He has met another princess as he is creating the land and seduces her and have a child. But fearing that the forward princess will kill the child and try to murder the other woman, the new woman, she takes and she hides the baby and decides to just leave and go into hiding as well. So she just kind of shows up, has a kid, and then leaves. What's interesting is the child that they have is hidden in a tree to not be seen by the forward princess, and becomes the tree fork deity. This is just because he's hidden in the fork of a tree. But he's also known as the deity of August wells because he's apparently famed for digging many wells throughout the country. And because we don't see any sort of wells prior to this, we're going to go ahead and say that he's invented wells in Japan. So, pretty big deal. He invented wells, pretty popular. Everyone seems to be a fan. But not one to be outdone by himself. Onamuji goes on and he discovers a new woman to woo him, or for him to woo, the princess of Nunakaha. So he goes out into the land of Koshi, which is where the 8-headed serpent came from that Susanoo killed. So he decides to go out and he's going to try to woo this woman, this Nuna Kaha. And this is where we have our first song. So what I'm going to be doing is giving you basically the gist of what the song is, and then we're going to be going through and just looking at it real quick. So the first song is Onamuji. He sees Nunakawa, and he can't wait. So this is essentially him saying, hey, I didn't got time for any of this romance. Let's just get down to brass tacks. I, His Augustness, the deity of 8,000 spears, having been unable to find a spouse in the land of 8 islands, and having heard that in the far-off land of Koshi there is a wise maiden, having heard that there is a beauteous maiden, I am standing here to truly woo her. I am going backwards and forwards to woo her, without having yet untied even the cord of my sword, without having yet untied even my veil. I push back the plank door shut by the maiden. While I am standing here, I pull it forward. While I'm standing, the Nuye sings on the green mountain, and the voice of a true bird of the moor, the pheasant, resounds. The bird of the yard, the cock crows. Oh, the pity that the birds should sing. Oh, these birds, would that I could beat them till they were sick. Oh, swiftly flying heaven racing messenger, the tradition of this thing, too, is this. So, Nuna Kaha Hime hears this, and before even opening the door, because she got the gist of what he was saying, responds with this. Hey, I'm not ready yet. Give me a little time. Soon, not right now, but soon. Soon we can do it. And in the waka poem form, it sounds a little bit like this. Thine Augustness, the deity of 8,000 spears, being a maiden like a drooping plant, my heart is just a bird on the sand bank by the shore. It will now indeed be a dotterel. Afterwards, it will be a gentle bird. So, for thine life, do not deign to die. Oh, swift flying heaven racing messenger, the tradition of the thing too is this. So this poem actually continues on with what we're about to go into next, but the commentary here, and apparently the commentary previously, all consider this next part to be a separate poem. Also from the princess, but still a separate poem altogether. When the sun shall hide behind the green mountains, in the night black as the true jewels of the moor, will I come forth, coming radiant with smiles like the morning sun. Thine arms, white as rope of paper mulberry bark, shall softly pat my breast, soft as the melting snow, and patting each other interlaced, stretching out the pillowing on others' jeweled arms, true jeweled arms, and with outstretched legs we will sleep. So, speaking not too lovingly, thine Augustus, the deity of 8,000 spears, the tradition of this thing too is this. So, inevitably, they end up making sweet, sweet love that night. And, of course, once Onamuji's primary wife, the forward princess, finds out, not too happy about it. And especially considering now that Onamuji is going to be traveling from Izumo, which is where they currently live, all the way to the land of Yamato, which is where the imperial court will eventually be established. She's not too happy about him going off. So what Onamuji does before he leaves is he recites to her a beautiful poem to reassure her, kind of, but not really. So the poem is essentially an ode to I'm going to go look for a better wife because I can't deal with your jealousy. So that's what his poem is. When I take and attire myself so carefully in my august garments, black as the true jewels of the moor, and, like the birds of the offing, look at my breast. Though I raise my fins, I say that these are not good, and cast them off on the waves on the shore. When I take and attire myself so carefully in my august garments, green as the kingfisher, and, like the birds of the offing, look at my breast. Though I raise my fins, I say that these too are not good, and cast them off on the waves on the beach. When I take and attire myself so carefully in my radiant dyed in the sap of the dye tree, the pounded madder sought in the mountain fields, and, like the birds of the offing, look at my breast. Though I raise my fins, I say that they are good. My dear sister, thine augustness, though thou shalt say that thou wilt not weep, if, like the flocking birds, I flock and depart, if, like the led birds, I am led away and depart, thou wilt hang down thy head like a single eulalia upon the mountain, and thy weeping shall indeed rise as the mist of the morning shower. Thine Augustus, my spouse, like the young herbs. The tradition of this thing, too, is this. So here we see him, he's got his poem. In response, his wife, the forward princess, kind of offers a cup as a kind of sign of reconciliation. The point of what she has to say is that, I can only have one husband. You should really come home. You should really spend more time at home. You shouldn't be out getting wives in every different corner of the land. I can only have one husband, but you can have many, many wives. And then she offers this a goblet as the sign of reconciliation to try to keep him at home. Oh, thine Augustness, the deity of 8,000 spears, though, my dear master of the great land indeed, being a man, probably hast on the various island headlands that thou seest, and on every beach headland that thou looketh on, a wife like the young herbs. But as for me, alas, being a woman, I have no man except thee. I have no spouse except thee. Beneath the fluttering of the ornamented fence, beneath the softness of the warm coverlet, beneath the rustling of the cloth coverlet, thine arms, white as rope of paper mulberry bark, softly patting my breast softly as the melting snow, and patting each other interlaced, stretched out and the pillowing ourselves on each other's arms, true jeweled arms, and with outstretched legs we will sleep. Lift thy luxurious, august liquor. And so, this reconciliation takes place. Onamuji drinks the cup. He spends a lovely evening with his wife, and the next morning goes out and looks for a better wife. So, doesn't really seem like it worked out too well. And during Onamuji's travels, he meets the Torrent Mist Princess, which is actually the daughter of Susanoo and Amaterasu, which makes Torrent Mist Princess Onamuji's great aunt. So, that's a thing. And they have 2 children, Ajishiki, which is the High Prince Lord, and Takahime, which is a very beautiful princess, also known as the Undershining Princess, because her beauty is so well hidden. Onamuji then moves on and gets another spouse, the Divine House Shield. Pretty good thing. And they have a child called the Child Deity Thing Sign Master, because he tells you about stuff with signs. What kind of things? Things. That's what he tells people about. Things with his signs. He then has another spouse, and this is kind of an important one, the deity Bird Ears. Bird Ears, pretty important spouse. And they have a child, the Bird Growing Ears, Tori Narumi no Kami. Bird Growing Ears. Ears tends to be a name and a term that we see a lot in deity names during the Kojiki. It does have the direct English meaning of ears, but it also has a more vague meaning of like greatness. So, Bird Growing Ears, or Tori Narumi no Kami, then is the father, the progenitor of the 7 heavenly generations. 17, sorry. So the 17 generations that we see, and a lot of these deities become the ancestors of some of the great houses and established families in the Yamato court, and dealing with the budding community that becomes Japan. So that's pretty cool. So after Onamuji goes gallivanting throughout the countryside, going to different islands, getting new wives, having new kids, he returns back to the Cape of Miho in Izumo, which is to the southwest of the Yamato court. And one day there comes an unusual wave, and atop its crest is a small boat. And on this boat there's a heavenly milkweed boat, or kagami. It's a little half-looking milkweed, a tiny, tiny little boat. And there's a deity dressed in the skins of a goose, or the various commenters and translations can't decide whether it's goose skin or it's silk, and that there's a mix-up between the characters for skin of goose and the skin of a moth. So there's a little mishap there. So he's either covered in goose skin or silk. And Onamuji yells out to this little boat, and he asks his name. Hey, what's your name? And the little deity on the boat says nothing. So Onamuji sees a toad, and he says, hey, toad, go find out that guy's name. So the toad goes over, and he's like, you know what? I don't know his name. I don't really feel like I should ask him. I'm just a toad. So I'm going to go get the Crumbling Prince. Crumbling Prince will know. Like I said, just a toad. Not my job. So Onamuji goes and summons the Crumbling Prince. And the Crumbling Prince looks over, and he's like, I know that guy. That's the Little Prince. He's a very renowned deity. He's the child of Kame Musubi no Kami, the deity producing wondrous deities. That's like one of the original 5 that happened in the way, way, way beginning of the universe, the creation. So Crumbling Prince tells him, that's a mischievous little guy there, so be careful. And he's kind of got rank on you, so I don't know. But he's still out of favor with his parents, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Onamuji, being irresponsible himself, says, oh, wow, I'm impressed. Let's go send that guy a messenger, as opposed to just let him sit out there in the water all day on his little boat. And while he's doing this, he also sends a messenger up to Kame Musubi, the one of those creator deities. And Kame Musubi confirms that this is, and she says, hey, like I said, like people have been saying, the little prince, troublemaker, is misbehaving, doesn't listen to the rules too often. And Onamuji's kind of cool with that. So he goes out and says hi to the little prince. And he says, hey, little prince, I was ordered to help make this land. Do you want to help out? I kind of need, someone who can help me out with this. Little prince is like, nah, no, not really into that. And then Kame Musubi, his parent, says, no, that's what you got to be doing. So get to work, chop chop. So Onamuji and the little prince get to work, creating the land, bringing order to the world, doing all that minor creation stuff. But because the little prince is a little mischievous guy, when he's not looking, when Onamuji's not looking, he just kind of bounces. He just skitters off and escapes out to the Eternal Lands, which is a distant land which is imperfectly known but specifically named. So it's somewhere not in the Japanese islands. Maybe it's Korean peninsula, Chinese continent, Taiwan, Hawaii. Could be Hawaii, but where it's not is Japan. So that was that. So he goes back over to the Crumbling Prince, and the Crumbling Prince is actually a deity of scarecrows, and I think the deity Crumbling Prince is an actual, I think he's a scarecrow, because he's the deity of scarecrows, and he knows all under heaven. And that tends to be a lot. I think there's a reference to this in Studio Ghibli film Howl's Moving Castle. Yes, with the little scarecrow who hops around. I think that's a throwback to the Crumbling Prince, knows all under heaven. And now he's a cool scarecrow with a cool pipe. That's what you can picture him as, hopping around, helping Onamuji put the world together. But I guess he can't really move because he's a scarecrow. And once the little prince is gone, Onamuji goes back to the Crumbling Prince and is like, shit. So what do you want to do? And the crumbling prince says, I don't know. I'm just a scarecrow. God. And making the world, I can help you out. Let's see what else we can do. At that moment, a new deity enters the arena from the sea, illuminating all in his wake. And he comes over and he says, Onamuji, if thou will erect a temple for me, I will aid you in your task. And so, boom, Onamuji's got someone else helping him now. So, Onamuji goes, builds a beautiful big temple for him, and there we go. He's got a new patron. And here's really where we're going to have to leave off today, because Onamuji and his new illuminating deity will be creating as best as they can, trying to order the world, but they only do so good of a job. There's still rampant deities of chaos on the earth, causing a ruckus, not really ordering things as best as they could be. So we'll see next time when we come back. Amaterasu tries to go check in on the middle plane, the reed plane that the islands of Japan are going to be referred to as. And she's looking down. She sees that Onamuji's he's trying, right? He's doing his best. She thinks he's putting in a good effort, but he's not really doing a good job. So she's going to decide that she got to take matters into her own hands and get someone else to do it, find a new contractor. That does it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please send me an email at incrediblediscourse@gmail.com. Thank you very much.